I love indie games. Most of the time they are made under much less stressful and abusive circumstances compared to their AAA counterparts. They take a lot more risks, and most important of all, they often focus more on being games first. Sometimes the better games don't need to have cutting-edge graphics, or a heartstring-pulling storyline, or even a deep, thoughtful deconstruction of the medium to be great. Instead, what it takes for a game to be great is just plain and adult fun. And that is precisely what Kero Blaster is. It's a fun 2D shooter platformer by Pixel, the creator of Cave Story, and the closest thing we'll ever get to a Cave Story 2 since Nicalis conned him into giving away the rights to that IP. And much like Cave Story, it encapsulates everything I love about indie games. Kero Blaster has you play as Kero, a little janitor frog working for the Cat and Frog Company cleaning up teleporters. Some weird black creatures have been clogging those teleporters, and it's up to you to clear them up. This is one of those games where the story is just some silly flavor text to contextualize why you are doing what you are doing. And what you do in this game is explore different areas crawling with hostile creatures. The gameplay works quite similar to Cave Story, but while Cave Story is more of a linear Metroidvania, Kero Blaster is more closer to classic Contra. The levers are a lot more linear and arcadey, with an ever-increasing difficulty curve that I can't help but love. What I find most remarkable here is the environments. Yes, on paper they are your typical 8-bit-ish graphics, but they are detailed enough to give a little sense of immersion. Because these levels are not just gamey levels for fun. They are built like people work or live there until the black creatures invaded, and later on these quirky environments can become even creepy the further you advance. And achieving that kind of environment and immersion with such a simple art style, it's the mark of a talented artist. In general, the gameplay works like this. On top of running and gunning enemies, you also find new weapons and small upgrades as you progress through each level. Enemies will sometimes drop coins that you can use to buy upgrades to your health, weapons, and even buy healing and extra lives. But if you want some of those, you will end up grinding for quite a bit. But it is one of those grinds that can be worth it and will make your life a lot easier in later levels. The weapons in the game are not just for show. Each of them got their own ups and downs, and specific weapons will get you through specific situations. From elemental damage, covering wider shots for hard to reach enemies, to rapid fire for some devastating DPS. True to 2D shooters, at certain points in the game you're going to fight bosses, and there is a healthy variety of them. They all got their own weak points and gimmicks going on, with some being more challenging than others, but overall they're fun, intense bosses to fight. But you do need to be mindful of the difficulty curve, as even on normal difficulty this game is not a walk in the park. Dying in this game will send you back to the start of the last screen you reach, and losing all your extra lives will have you start the level all over again. Thankfully the game is lenient, and anything extra you might have had to face, like a mid-boss or a major story sequence, will stay completed, so making your way back to where you died is a lot faster and doable. What gives this mechanic a funny flavor is that whenever you get a game over, you wake up at a hospital. You can buy any supplies you might need and then you make your way back. So despite being more of a silly flavor plot to justify the gameplay, it still manages to do a fun gameplay and story integration. Now, in terms of length, this is a pretty short game. You can beat it in one sitting for 3 hours on average, maybe more if you die a lot or decide to grind for upgrades like I did. But this is actually a good thing. Because of its short length, you can replay this game to your heart's content. There are 2 more difficulty modes that you can unlock after each playthrough, and they spice things up by remixing levels and making bosses even harder. And even if there wasn't unlockable modes, there is a sense of thrill for going through the game again and making sure you take as little damage as possible, or even going for a no death or no damage run. I think one of my personally favorite aspects of the gameplay is the sense of escalation. The very first level of the game feels very simple at best and really unremarkable at worst, but it is the moment you beat the first boss and gain a new weapon that things slowly begin to ramp up. By the time you reach the second levels and the final act of the game, you are suddenly destroying hordes of enemies and facing increasingly intense boss fights. This is one of those cases where the game levels up with you, and with weapons doing more and more damage as you unlock their upgrades, you go from meekly keeping your distance to rushing in like a froggy weapon of mass destruction against your enemies. True to Pixel's talent from when he made Cave Story, the music is just a complete banger too. And I know I don't talk about game scores very often, but this is one of those instances where the music really helps with the gameplay. It helps you get immersed and feel more in tune with the environment you are in. It is one of those cases where the humble chiptune instruments mix up with more modern instruments to create some really good ear candy. At least subjectively for me. I know there is people out there who really don't like chiptunes or 8-bit retro styles at all, and that's good for them. I will dare argue this is a near perfect gaming experience, but the grindy nature of the upgrades can give a small degree of tedium to the pacing. It would have been a lot better to make the supplies and upgrades a bit less expensive, so moving through the levels was a lot smoother. Now, I know technically you can just go through the levels and focus all of your money into buying the upgrades for the one weapon you want. The problem is, the first half of the game is going to have you go through environments built specifically for certain guns, so you are not going to have enough to buy the upgrades later on without grinding, which of course can have an impact on the difficulty, because your damage output can and will make a difference on how long enemies stay on screen, giving you a higher risk of taking damage and a higher chance of getting killed. It's the only real downside of this game, but I don't think it's enough to detract from the experience. Also, for a game that has multiple save files, I feel a New Game Plus mode or at least a level select mode could have worked wonders for replayability. Like I said, the game is short enough, so starting a clean save file and beating the game doesn't take more than one session, especially if you already beat this before. But part of me wishes there had been a way to go through the game again with all your hard-earned upgrades, to make returning to these old levels a lot more satisfying. But that's just a minor thing, thankfully. The difficulty curve is nice, limited hit points without much upgrades can make things harder, but the general beauty of games like this is to learn from your mistakes, so next replay you will be acing the levels without even realizing it. By the end of the day, Kero Blaster is a work of love. It's short, it's sweet, and it seriously brings me back memories to when I first downloaded the free version of Cave Story years ago and completely fell in love with it. It's charming, and even for a humble 8-bit style game, the art style is cute and full of personality. There is also two side games to accompany this game, Pink Hour and Pink Heaven, working as both a prequel and an epilogue to Kero Blaster. They are even shorter than the main game, but they are also extremely fun. The best part is both of them are free, so if you want more Kero Blaster in fun-sized bites, you can give those two a go. This is why I am giving Kero Blaster a healthy and well-deserved 9 out of 10. I know there wasn't too much to say about the game, but there really was no need to say more. Like the game, I wanted to keep things short and sweet, and informative enough. I know I could have put this video into a small compilatory like I did a while ago, but the game was so much fun I felt it deserved to have a video of its own, because it reminded me just how much fun indie games can be. It also reminds me that I have quite the backlog of indie games, so who knows, we may be looking at more hidden gems lost to time that could deserve a good dose of love.